Let me tell you about the worst moment of my life. The moment I felt my youngest son's hands lock around my arms from behind, while his wife shoved my Mariana so hard she stumbled backward into a wall. I'm talking about the day my own blood tried to steal everything I'd built, right there in an empty property I'd purchased with my own sweat. If you've ever been betrayed by someone you raised, fed, and loved, you might feel this one. Before I go any further, do me a favor. If you love these kinds of true life stories, hit that like button and drop a comment telling me what part of the world you're watching from. It means more than you know. These stories need to be heard. My name is Richard Cole. I'm 62 years old now, and at the time this all went down, I was living in Clayton, Missouri, a quiet suburb just outside St. Louis. I'd spent 30 years building Cole properties from nothing into something real. But this story isn't about success. It's about the price I almost paid for trusting the wrong person. This is about family. This is about betrayal. And this is about the day I had to choose between keeping the peace and keeping my dignity. I need to take you back to understand how deep this cut went. It was 2019, and life felt solid. My wife Mariana and I had been married for 38 years. We'd raised 3 children together: David, our oldest, at 36, Clara at 33, and Ethan, our youngest, who just turned 30. David worked as a civil engineer in Atlanta. Clara was a pediatric nurse in Chicago. Both of them called every Sunday like clockwork. Both of them knew struggle because they'd watched us go through it. But Ethan had always been different. He came along when we were older, more established. He didn't grow up watching me install drywall at 2 in the morning or hearing his mother cry over bills at the kitchen table. By the time Ethan was aware of the world, Cole Properties was already successful. He grew up in comfort, went to private schools, got a business degree from Washington University, and somehow, in all that blessing, he missed the lesson about where it came from. I remember the exact moment I should have seen the warning signs. It was Thanksgiving 2018, and the whole family was gathered at our home in Clayton, a 4-bedroom colonial I'd bought in 2005 when the business really took off. Mariana had cooked for 2 days straight. Turkey, dressing, greens, sweet potato pie, the works. The house smelled like heaven, and everyone was laughing around the dining room table. David was telling a story about a bridge project in Georgia. Clara was showing us photos of her patients, those sick babies she helped heal. And then Ethan spoke up. "Dad," he said, setting down his fork with this careful, practiced motion, "I've been thinking, Cole Properties needs to expand into commercial development. Residential real estate is saturated. We're leaving money on the table." I looked at him across the table. He was wearing a tailored suit even though it was Thanksgiving. His wife Vanessa sat beside him in designer everything, her lips pressed into this thin, impatient line. "We've been doing just fine," I said carefully. 22 properties generating steady rental income, low risk, reliable returns. "But that's the problem," Ethan pressed. "You're thinking like it's still 1995. The market has changed. I could double our revenue in 3 years if you just let me implement my strategy." Mariana touched my hand under the table. She knew me well enough to feel the tension building in my shoulders. "Ethan," I said slowly, "you've been working with me for 4 years. You've done good work, but Cole Properties isn't broke. We don't need to fix what isn't broken." His jaw tightened. Vanessa whispered something in his ear, and I saw him nod. "I'm just saying," Ethan continued, his voice harder now, "at some point, you're going to have to trust me. I have ideas, I have connections, but you keep treating me like I'm still in college." David cleared his throat. "Maybe we should just enjoy the food, man." "No," Ethan said sharply. "I'm tired of being shut down every time I try to contribute something real." The table went silent. I could hear the old furnace humming in the basement, could see Clara staring at her plate, could feel Mariana's grip tighten on my hand. "Son," I said quietly, "this isn't the time or the place." "It's never the time or the place with you," Ethan shot back. He stood up, threw his napkin on his plate. "Come on, Vanessa, let's go." They left before dessert. Mariana cried in the kitchen while I held her. David and Clara tried to smooth it over, but we all knew something had shifted that day. "He's just ambitious," Clara said softly. "He wants to prove himself." But I'd seen something else in Ethan's eyes when he looked at me across that table. Something cold, something hungry, something that scared me more than I wanted to admit. I thought maybe he'd cool down. I thought maybe marriage and responsibility would humble him. I thought time would heal whatever resentment was building. I was wrong about all of it. What I didn't know, what I couldn't have known, was that Ethan and Vanessa had already started planning. They'd been going through my files, copying documents, building their case. They decided that if I wouldn't hand over control, they'd take it. And 6 months later, they made their move. The call came on a Tuesday morning in May 2019. I was at the office reviewing lease agreements when my phone rang. Ethan's name lit up the screen. "Hey, son," I answered, still hoping we could get back to normal. "Dad, I need you and Mom to meet me at the Fairview property this afternoon, 2 o'clock. It's important." The Fairview property was an investment I'd closed on 3 months earlier, a foreclosed duplex in a decent neighborhood that needed renovation. It was sitting empty while we lined up contractors. "What's this about?" I asked. "Just trust me," Ethan said, and something in his voice made my stomach drop. "Bring Mom. You both need to be there." He hung up before I could ask anything else. I sat there in my office, staring at the phone, feeling that same cold dread I'd felt at Thanksgiving. Mariana walked in with coffee, took one look at my face, and knew something was wrong. "What happened?" she asked. "Ethan wants to meet us at Fairview, 2 o'clock. "Both of us?" "Both of us." She set down the coffee. "Richard, I don't like this." "Neither do I, baby. Neither do I. But we went anyway, because he was our son, because we still believed somewhere deep down that blood meant something, because we thought we could fix whatever was broken between us. We thought we were going to a meeting. We were walking into an ambush." Mariana and I pulled up to the Fairview property at 1:55 p.m. It was a warm May afternoon, the kind where the sun feels good on your skin and the breeze carries the smell of cut grass. The duplex sat on a quiet corner lot, surrounded by oak trees and overgrown hedges. We'd gotten it for a steal because the previous owner had let it deteriorate, but the bones were good. I could already see what it would become once we put the work in. Ethan's black Mercedes was parked in the driveway. I could see him sitting in the driver's seat, phone pressed to his ear. Vanessa sat beside him, her blonde hair pulled back in a severe ponytail, her face unreadable behind oversized sunglasses. "Something doesn't feel right," Mariana said quietly as I put the car in park. She was wearing her favorite yellow sundress, the one I'd bought her for her birthday last year. She'd put on lipstick and earrings, had taken care with her appearance because she thought this might be a peace offering, a fresh start. My Mariana always believed the best in people, especially family. "Let's just hear him out," I said, trying to sound more confident than I felt. We got out of the car. Ethan and Vanessa emerged from the Mercedes at the same time, moving in sync like they'd rehearsed this. Ethan wore a crisp white dress shirt rolled up at the sleeves, dark slacks, expensive shoes. He carried a leather portfolio under his arm. Vanessa wore all black, black blouse, black pants, black heels. She looked like she was dressed for a funeral. "Thanks for coming," Ethan said, but there was no warmth in it, no hug, no smile, just cold efficiency. "What's this about, son?" I asked, trying to keep my voice level. "Inside," he said simply, already walking toward the front door. The 4 of us entered through the side entrance. The house was completely empty, stripped of everything by the bank before the foreclosure sale. Our footsteps echoed on the bare hardwood floors. Afternoon light filtered through dirty windows, casting long shadows across the walls. The air inside was stale and thick, like the house had been holding its breath. Ethan led us to what used to be the living room. He set his portfolio down on the floor and turned to face us. Vanessa stood beside him, arms crossed, face still unreadable. "So," Ethan began, his voice eerily calm, "let's talk about the future of Cole Properties." "Okay," I said carefully. Mariana moved closer to me, her hand finding mine. Ethan opened the portfolio and pulled out a stack of papers. He held them up like a prosecutor presenting evidence. "I've been doing some research," he said, "looking into the company finances, the property portfolios, the income statements. And you know what I found, Dad?" "What did you find?" I asked, though every instinct in my body was screaming at me to grab Mariana and leave. Inefficiency, waste, missed opportunities. But more than that, he paused, letting the moment stretch. I found proof that Cole Properties is being mismanaged, badly. Excuse me? I felt my jaw clench. These documents show a pattern of poor decision-making, aging infrastructure, declining property values, and revenue loss. Any competent board would see this as grounds for immediate leadership change. What are you talking about? Mariana asked, her voice shaking slightly. Your father built this business from nothing. Every property we own is profitable. Vanessa spoke for the first time, her voice sharp and cold. With all due respect, Mrs. Cole, the numbers don't lie, and these numbers show that Richard's approach is outdated and potentially damaging to the company's future. I looked at the papers in Ethan's hands. Even from several feet away, I could see spreadsheets, financial projections, property assessments. They looked official. They looked real. Where did you get those? I asked quietly. Does it matter? Ethan shot back. What matters is that Cole Properties needs new leadership. Immediately, and I'm prepared to take over operational control, effective today. The room seemed to tilt. I heard Mariana gasp beside me. You want me to? What? Just hand you my company? Our company, Ethan corrected. It's a family business, remember? And yes, that's exactly what I'm saying. You transfer controlling interest to me. You stay on as a figurehead if you want, but all major decisions go through me, starting now. And if I say no, I asked, though I already knew this wasn't a negotiation. Ethan's face hardened. Then I take these documents to your investors, your lenders, and your business partners. I show them that Cole Properties is being run into the ground by a man who refuses to adapt. I file for an emergency injunction claiming elder abuse and financial incompetence. I make sure everyone knows that you're no longer fit to run this company. You would destroy me, I said, my voice barely above a whisper. Your own father. I would save the family business, Ethan countered, before you run it into bankruptcy. Mariana stepped forward, her voice stronger now. Ethan, this is insane. Your father has never once. Stay out of this, Mom, Ethan snapped. This is business. This is our life, Mariana shouted, and I heard real fear in her voice now. This is 30 years of work. You can't just... I can, Ethan interrupted coldly. And I will, unless you both sign these transfer documents right now. He pulled out more papers from the portfolio, official-looking legal documents with highlighted signature lines. 24 hours, I said suddenly, the words coming out before I'd fully formed the thought. Give me 24 hours to review everything. No, Vanessa said flatly. We've given you 4 years, Richard. 4 years of watching you ignore your son's potential, shut down his ideas, and treat him like he doesn't matter. This ends today. That's when I saw it, the real anger in her eyes. This wasn't just about business. This was personal. This was about power and resentment and something darker that had been building in both of them. I need time, I said firmly, standing my ground. If these documents are legitimate, if this assessment is accurate, then I need time to verify it with my own attorney and accountant. That's not unreasonable. Ethan and Vanessa looked at each other. Some unspoken communication passed between them. Fine, Ethan finally said. 24 hours. But if you try to move assets, hide money, or warn anyone about this, I go public immediately. Understood? Understood, I said, though my mind was already racing ahead. Good, Ethan said. We'll meet back here tomorrow, same time. Come prepared to sign or come prepared for war. He gathered up the papers and turned toward the door. Vanessa followed, but not before giving me one last cold look. This could have been easy, she said. You should have trusted us. And then they were gone, their footsteps echoing through the empty house, the front door slamming shut behind them. Mariana collapsed against me, her whole body shaking. I held her there in that empty living room, both of us trying to understand what had just happened. What do we do? She whispered. I looked around at the bare walls, the dirty windows, the shadows lengthening across the floor. This house was supposed to be an investment, a future. Now it felt like a crime scene. We fight back, I said quietly. We show them that respect isn't given, it's earned, and they just lost mine. But even as I said it, I could feel my hands trembling. Because I didn't know if I could actually do it. Didn't know if I could go to war with my own son. I was about to find out. We didn't speak on the drive home. Mariana stared out the window, tears running silently down her cheeks, while I gripped the steering wheel so tight my knuckles went white. My mind was spinning, trying to make sense of what had just happened. My youngest son, the boy I'd held in the hospital the night he was born, the kid I'd taught to ride a bike, the young man I'd given a job to when he graduated, had just tried to steal my life's work. When we pulled into our driveway, Mariana finally spoke. "What if he's right?" she asked softly. "What if we're too old, too outdated? What if—" "Stop," I said, turning to look at her. "Don't let him get in your head, baby. That's what they want. They want us to doubt ourselves." "But the documents were probably fake," I said, "or twisted to look worse than they are. We've been profitable every single year. Our properties are maintained. Our tenants are happy. None of what he said makes sense unless he's lying." Mariana nodded slowly, wiping her eyes. "So what do we do?" "We make calls," I said. "Right now. We don't wait." Inside the house, I went straight to my home office while Mariana made tea in the kitchen, her hands still shaking. I closed the door, sat down at my desk, and pulled out my phone. The first call was to Harold Kemp, my attorney of 23 years. He picked up on the second ring. "Richard, how are you?" "Harold, I need you to listen carefully," I said, and I told him everything, the meeting, the documents, the ultimatum. When I finished, there was a long silence on the other end. "Jesus Christ," Harold finally said. "I can't believe Ethan would. Are you sure those documents were real?" "That's what I need you to find out. Can you come to my house tonight? I need to know what my options are." "I'll be there in an hour," Harold said immediately. "Don't sign anything. Don't agree to anything. And Richard, if those documents were falsified or if he obtained them illegally, we can destroy him legally." "He's my son," I said quietly. "He stopped being your son the moment he tried to destroy you," Harold replied, his voice hard. "I'll see you soon." The second call was to Sebastian Rivera, my financial advisor and accountant. Sebastian had been handling Cole Properties' finances for 15 years. If anyone could verify whether those documents were legitimate, it was him. "Richard?" Sebastian answered, sounding surprised. "Everything okay? We're not scheduled to meet until—" "Sebastian, I need you to do a complete audit of Cole Properties, tonight. Every account, every asset, every transaction for the past 5 years. That's a massive undertaking. Can I ask why?" I told him. Sebastian swore in Spanish, which he only did when things were truly bad. "Those documents he showed you," Sebastian said carefully, "they sound like internal files. Files that only someone with administrative access could get to. Richard, has Ethan been in the company system?" My stomach dropped. "He's had login credentials for 4 years. He's on the payroll. He's authorized to view reports, yes. But to download confidential financial data? To alter projections? That's a different level of access. If he's been falsifying records to make the company look unstable, that's fraud. That's criminal." "Can you prove it?" I asked. "Give me 12 hours, Sebastian said. "I'll have everything documented, time-stamped, and ready for your attorney. And Richard, I've reviewed our books 100 times. Cole Properties is solid. Whatever he showed you, it's not the truth." That knowledge should have made me feel better. Instead, it made everything worse. Because it meant my son wasn't just ambitious or misguided. It meant he was actively trying to destroy me. The third call was the hardest. I dialed David's number in Atlanta. It was 4:30 p.m. Central Time, which meant he was probably still at work on some construction site, but I needed him. "Dad?" David answered over the sound of machinery in the background. "Hold on. Let me get somewhere quiet." I waited, listening to muffled voices and the clang of metal. Finally, the background noise faded. "Okay, I'm back. What's up?" I told him everything. Unlike Harold and Sebastian, David didn't swear or express shock. He just went quiet for a long, long time. "David," I said, "you still there?" "Yeah," he said finally, his voice tight. "I'm here. I'm trying to understand how Ethan could do this." "I don't know, son. I don't know." "What do you need from me?" David asked immediately. "You want me to come home?" "Yes," I said, and my voice cracked slightly. "Yes, I need you here. Both you and Clara. I need my family." "I'll book a flight tonight," David said without hesitation. "I'll be there by morning. And Dad, we're going to fix this. Ethan doesn't get to destroy what you built. He doesn't get to hurt Mom. We'll handle this together." The relief I felt hearing those words nearly broke me. "Thank you, son. That's what family does," David said. "Real family." The fourth call was to Clara in Chicago. She was on her break at the hospital when I reached her. "Daddy?" she said, and I could hear the smile in her voice. "This is a nice surprise. How are—" "Clara, baby, I need you to come home," I interrupted gently. "Something's happened with Ethan." "What? Is he okay?" "He's fine, but we're not. I need you here, sweetie. Can you get time off?" Clara didn't even hesitate. "I'll talk to my supervisor. I can probably leave by tonight. What's going on?" I gave her the short version, trying to keep my voice steady. I heard her sharp intake of breath. "He did what?" Clara's voice rose. "Dad, that's insane. How could he?" "I know, baby. I know. I'm coming home," Clara said firmly. "Tonight, and we're going to figure this out. Ethan he can't. God, I can't believe this." "Neither can I admitted. "But I need you and David here. I need people I can trust." "You've got us, Daddy," Clara said softly, "always." After the calls, I sat in my office for a long time, watching the sun set through the window. Mariana came in eventually, carrying 2 cups of tea and a plate of cookies she'd stress-baked while I was on the phone. "Harold's coming over," I told her. "Sebastian's doing an audit. David and Clara are flying in tonight." Mariana set down the tea and wrapped her arms around me from behind. "What are we going to do, Richard? We're going to protect what's ours," I said. "And we're going to show Ethan that respect isn't something you take. It's something you earn." "He's our baby," Mariana whispered, "our youngest boy." "I know," I said, and I felt tears finally coming. "I know he is, but right now he's not acting like our son. He's acting like our enemy." We sat there together as the room grew dark, holding each other, trying to find strength for what was coming. Somewhere across town, Ethan and Vanessa were probably celebrating, thinking they'd won, thinking they'd cornered us. They had no idea what was about to hit them. Because they'd forgotten something important. I'd built coal properties from nothing. I'd survived recessions, market crashes, bad deals, and worse partners. I'd learned to fight in rooms a lot meaner than that empty house. And now I was about to teach my son the most painful lesson of his life. You don't bite the hand that fed you, not without losing your teeth. Harold Kemp arrived at 7 p.m. sharp, carrying his leather briefcase and wearing the same serious expression he'd worn in every courtroom battle we'd fought together. He was 68 years old, silver-haired, sharp-eyed, and one of the best real estate attorneys in Missouri. He'd handled the legal work for every property I'd ever purchased. We sat at the dining room table, me, Mariana, and Harold. I laid out every detail of the confrontation again, and Harold took notes on a yellow legal pad, occasionally asking questions. "Did Ethan specifically say he'd altered the documents?" Harold asked. "No," I admitted, "but he showed them to us like they were proof. Financial statements, property assessments, income projections, all showing losses and mismanagement. And you're sure he has administrative access to your systems?" "He's been working with me for 4 years. He has his own login, his own office, access to almost everything." Harold set down his pen. "Richard, if those documents were falsified using company data he had legitimate access to, that's fraud. If he threatened you with public disclosure to force a business transaction, that's extortion. If he obtained documents he wasn't authorized to access, that's theft. We can bury him legally." "He's my son," I said again, the words feeling hollow now. "I understand that," Harold said gently. "But Richard, you need to understand something. This isn't a family dispute anymore. This is a criminal act. He came at you with forged evidence and threats. If you don't respond appropriately, he will destroy everything you've built." Mariana spoke up, her voice small. "What are our options?" Harold flipped to a fresh page on his legal pad. "Option 1, you give in. You transfer control, and you spend the rest of your life watching him run your company into the ground or kick you out entirely. I don't recommend this option." "Neither do I said firmly. "Option 2, you negotiate. You offer him a minority stake, a title, more responsibility. You try to satisfy whatever's driving this without giving him total control." "He won't accept that," I said. "He wants it all." "Then option 3, Harold continued. You go to war. We document everything. We get Sebastian's audit showing the company is healthy. We revoke Ethan's access to company systems immediately. We restructure Cole Properties' ownership to protect your assets. We prepare to fire him if necessary, and if he follows through on his threats, we hit him with criminal charges. The room went silent. Mariana was crying quietly. I felt like I'd aged 10 years in the last 4 hours. There's one more thing we need to discuss, Harold said carefully. Your will and estate planning. What about it? I asked. If Ethan is willing to do this now, what do you think happens when you die? He'll contest the will, fight his siblings, tie up everything in probate for years. You need to revise your estate plan immediately to protect David and Clara. You want me to disinherit Ethan? I said flatly. I want you to protect your assets and your other children, Harold corrected. Whatever you decide to leave Ethan should be in an ironclad trust that he can't touch. And frankly, after what he's done, I'd recommend minimizing his inheritance significantly. It hurt to hear it spoken out loud. The idea of writing my youngest son out of my will felt like giving up on him completely. But Harold was right. If Ethan would do this while I was alive, what would he do when I was gone? Let's do it, I said quietly. All of it. Restructure the company, revise the will, prepare for war. Harold nodded. I'll have preliminary documents ready by morning. But Richard, you need to be prepared for what this means. Ethan will fight back. It will get ugly. It's already ugly, I said. At 10 p.m., Sebastian called with preliminary audit findings. I put him on speakerphone so Harold and Mariana could hear. Richard, I've gone through 5 years of company records, Sebastian began. Cole Properties is in excellent financial health, strong cash flow, appreciating assets, minimal debt. Everything Ethan showed you was either completely fabricated or dramatically misrepresented. Can you prove it? Harold asked. I can prove it in court, Sebastian said confidently. I found evidence that someone with Ethan's login credentials accessed confidential files, downloaded financial data, and created modified projections that don't match our actual books. The timestamps show this activity going back 6 months. He's been planning this for half a year, I said, feeling sick. It looks that way, Sebastian confirmed. I'll have a complete report by morning with all the evidence documented and authenticated. If you need to take legal action, you'll have everything you need. After Sebastian hung up, Harold started drafting a plan of action. We would meet at his law office in the morning with Sebastian to finalize everything. Then, before the 24-hour deadline, we'd completely restructure Cole Properties. We'll create 3 separate entities, Harold explained. One holding company that owns the properties, one management company that operates them, and one investment company that controls the holding company. You and Mariana will own the investment company. Ethan will find himself with no access and no power. Can we do all that in one day? Mariana asked. If we start at 6 a.m., yes, Harold said. I'll have my paralegal and a notary standing by. It'll be tight, but we can do it. Around midnight, David's flight landed. I picked him up from Lambert Airport, and the moment I saw him walking through the terminal, I nearly broke down. He looked like me at 36, tall, broad-shouldered, serious. He dropped his bag and hugged me tight. We're going to fix this, Dad, he said into my shoulder. I promise. On the drive home, I filled him in on Harold's plan. David listened carefully, asking smart questions about the restructuring and the legal strategy. What about Ethan's wife? David asked. Vanessa, she was part of this too? She was, I confirmed. She might have been the one who pushed him into it. Then she's going down too, David said coldly. If she helped him falsify documents or threaten you, she's complicit. At 2 a.m., Clara arrived in an Uber from the airport. She came through the front door and immediately burst into tears, hugging both Mariana and me. How could he do this? She kept saying. How could Ethan do this to you? We all sat in the living room, exhausted but wired. David made coffee. Zush Shaft. Clara held her mother's hand, and I told them everything, every detail, every document, every threat. Tomorrow, I said finally, we meet at Harold's office. We restructure everything. And when Ethan shows up for his meeting at 2 p.m., he's going to find out that his plan failed. What if he still tries to go public with those fake documents? Clara asked. Then we destroy him, David said simply. We press charges. We show the world who he really is. I looked at my oldest son and my daughter, saw the determination in their faces, felt the support they were giving me. This is what real family looked like. Not the manipulative, power-hungry version Ethan had become, but this, People who showed up, who fought for each other, who stood together when things got hard. I'm sorry I brought you both into this, I said. Don't be, Clara said firmly. This is our fight too. This is our family business, and Ethan doesn't get to destroy it. We finally went to bed around 3 a.m., but I don't think any of us slept. I lay next to Mariana in the dark, listening to her breathe, thinking about all the years we built together, thinking about the boy Ethan used to be before greed and ambition poisoned him. At 5:30 a.m., my alarm went off. I showered, dressed in my best suit, and met David and Clara in the kitchen. Mariana had already made breakfast, even though none of us could eat. We drank coffee and tried to calm our nerves. Whatever happens today, I said to my family, I want you to know I'm proud of you. David, Clara, you didn't have to come home, but you did. That means everything. We're Coles, David said with a slight smile. We don't abandon family. Not the real ones, anyway. At 6 a.m., we piled into my car and drove to Harold's law office in downtown Clayton. Sebastian was already there, looking exhausted but determined, with 3 bankers' boxes full of documents. Let's do this, Harold said, rolling up his sleeves. The next 8 hours were a blur of paperwork, signatures, notarizations, and phone calls. We restructured Cole Properties from top to bottom. We locked down every account. We revoked every access credential Ethan had. We revised my will, putting everything into an iron-clad trust that protected David and Clara while giving Ethan only a minimal inheritance that he couldn't contest. By 1 p.m., it was done. Cole Properties was no longer a single entity that Ethan could target. It was a web of protected assets that he had no power over. He's going to be furious, Sebastian said, gathering up the files. Good, I said. Let him be furious. Let him see what happens when you try to steal from your own father. At 1:45 p.m., we left Harold's office and headed toward the Fairview property for the final confrontation. David and Clara came with us. Harold followed in his own car. We were ready. The war was about to begin, and this time, I wasn't going to lose. We arrived at the Fairview property at 1:55 p.m. I parked in the same spot as yesterday, but this time I wasn't afraid. This time I had my real family with me. Mariana, David, Clara, Harold, and Sebastian in his car right behind us. Ethan's Mercedes was already there, parked in the same place, like he was recreating yesterday's scene. Like he thought this was going to go the same way. He was wrong. David leaned forward from the back seat. You want me to go in first? Check the situation? No, I said. We all go in together. They need to see that I'm not alone anymore. We walked up to the front door as a unit. I could see Ethan and Vanessa through the dirty window while standing in the same living room as yesterday, waiting for us. Ethan was checking his watch, looking impatient. Vanessa was on her phone, typing rapidly. I opened the door without knocking. It was my property, after all. The look on Ethan's face when he saw all of us walk in was almost worth the pain of the last 24 hours. His expression went from confident to confused to angry in about 3 seconds. What's this? He said, looking at David and Clara. This was supposed to be a private meeting. Nothing about my family is private from my family, I said calmly. David and Clara have every right to be here. So does my attorney Harold Kemp and my accountant Sebastian Rivera. Harold stepped forward, his briefcase in hand. Mr. Cole, I'm here in my capacity as legal counsel for Richard Cole and Cole Properties. We've reviewed the documents you presented yesterday, and we have some concerns. Concerns? Vanessa said sharply. The only concern here is that Richard is mismanaging a company that should belong to Ethan. Actually, Sebastian said, pulling out a thick folder, I've completed a comprehensive audit of Cole Properties. The company is in excellent financial health. All properties are profitable. All accounts are current. There is zero evidence of mismanagement. That's not what my research shows, Ethan said, but I could hear the uncertainty creeping into his voice. Your research, Sebastian said coldly, appears to be based on falsified documents created using data you illegally accessed and manipulated. The room went dead silent. Vanessa's face went pale. Ethan's jaw clenched. I don't know what you're talking about, Ethan said. Don't you? Sebastian opened the folder and pulled out a stack of papers. These are system logs showing your login credentials, accessing confidential financial files over the past 6 months. These are timestamps showing when you downloaded proprietary data. And these are the original, unaltered documents that prove Cole Properties is completely healthy. What you showed your father yesterday was fraud." "That's ridiculous," Vanessa said, but her voice wavered. "Is it?" Harold asked. "Because fraud, extortion, and theft of proprietary business information are serious crimes in Missouri. We have everything documented. We have evidence, and we're prepared to file criminal charges if necessary." I watched my son's face as the reality of his situation sank in. He thought he was so smart, so clever. He thought we'd just roll over. He hadn't counted on us fighting back. "Now," I said quietly, stepping forward, "let me tell you what's actually going to happen here. First, you're fired from Cole Properties, effective immediately. All your access credentials have been revoked. Your company laptop and phone need to be returned to Sebastian by end of business today." "You can't fire me," Ethan said, his voice rising. "I'm your son." "You stopped being my son when you tried to destroy me," I said, echoing Harold's words from last night. "Second, Cole Properties has been completely restructured. Even if I wanted to give you control, which I don't, there's no longer a single entity to control. Everything is protected in multiple corporations that you have no access to." "You can't do that," Vanessa hissed. "We already did," Harold said. "As of 9 a.m. this morning, the restructuring was complete and legally binding." Clara spoke up, her voice sharp with anger. "How could you do this, Ethan? Dad gave you everything, a job, a salary, respect, and this is how you repay him?" "You don't understand," Ethan said desperately. "I was trying to save the company. I was trying to—" "You were trying to steal," David cut in, his voice hard. "Don't dress it up as something noble. You wanted power and money, and you were willing to destroy our parents to get it." "This isn't over," Vanessa said, her voice shaking with rage. "We'll take you to court. We'll show everyone what kind of father you really are." "You'll do nothing," Harold interrupted, his voice like ice. "Because if you file any lawsuits, if you make any public statements, if you make any moves against the Cole family, we'll file criminal charges immediately. And trust me, Miss Vanessa, conspiracy to commit fraud carries serious prison time in this state." I pulled out an envelope from my jacket pocket. "Third," I said to Ethan, "my will has been revised. Your inheritance has been reduced to a minimal amount held in trust. David and Clara will inherit the majority of my estate. You made your choice. Now you have to live with the consequences." Ethan's face crumpled. For just a moment I saw the boy he used to be, scared, confused, realizing he'd made a terrible mistake. But then Vanessa grabbed his arm, whispering urgently in his ear, and his expression hardened again. "You'll regret this," Ethan said, his voice cold. "No," I said sadly. "I regret raising a son who could do this. I regret not seeing who you really were. But defending my family, protecting what I built, I'll never regret that." I turned to Harold. "Are we done here?" "Almost," Harold said. He pulled out another document. "Ethan, this is a legal order prohibiting you from contacting your parents, David or Clara, for the next 6 months. If you violate this order, you'll be arrested." "A restraining order?" Ethan said, disbelief in his voice. "You're putting a restraining order on your own son?" "After what you did yesterday," Mariana spoke for the first time, her voice trembling, "I don't feel safe around you anymore. Neither does your father." Something in Mariana's words finally seemed to penetrate Ethan's armor. His face went white. He looked at his mother, really looked at her, and I think he finally understood what he'd done. "Mom," he said, and his voice cracked. "I didn't mean to." "You did mean to," Mariana said, tears running down her face. "You planned this for months. You came here with threats and lies. You tried to take everything from us. So no, Ethan, I don't want to see you, not until you understand what you've done." We walked out of that house together, leaving Ethan and Vanessa standing in the empty living room. I could hear Vanessa's raised voice even after we'd closed the door. Could imagine her berating Ethan for failing, for not being smart enough, for getting caught. In the parking lot, Harold handed me copies of all the documents we'd prepared. "It's done," he said. "Cole Properties is safe. Your family is safe. Ethan has no legal ground to stand on." "Thank you, Harold," I said, shaking his hand, "for everything." "That's what friends are for," Harold said. Then more quietly, "I'm sorry it came to this, Richard. I know how much this must hurt." "It does," I admitted, "but it would have hurt worse to lose everything." David drove us home in my car. Nobody spoke. We were all processing what had just happened, trying to understand how our family had shattered so completely in just 2 days. But as I looked at Mariana beside me, at David and Clara in the back seat, I realized something. My family hadn't shattered. The real core of it, the people who truly loved each other, was still intact. We'd lost Ethan, maybe forever, but we still had each other. And that, I was learning, had to be enough. The days after the confrontation at Fairview felt surreal, like I was living in someone else's nightmare. David and Clara stayed with us for a week, and their presence kept Mariana and me grounded. But once they flew back to their lives in Atlanta and Chicago, the reality of what we'd done, what we'd had to do, settled over our house like a heavy fog. Ethan didn't try to contact us. The restraining order made sure of that. But we heard things through mutual friends, through the business community, through the whispers that spread quickly in Clayton's tight social circles. The first thing I heard was that Ethan had been fired, wasn't just from Cole Properties. His reputation in the local real estate community was destroyed. Word got out about the falsified documents, the attempted theft, the family betrayal. Nobody wanted to work with him. Nobody trusted him. 3 weeks after the confrontation, I got a call from Marcus Thompson, a commercial developer I'd worked with for years. We met for coffee at a little place on Clayton Road. "Richard," Marcus said carefully, stirring his coffee, "I need to ask you something, and I need you to be straight with me. What really happened with Ethan?" I told him. Not all of it, but enough. Marcus listened in silence, his expression darkening. "Jesus," he finally said. "I had no idea. We'd actually been talking to him about a potential partnership, but after what you just told me." He shook his head. "I'm sorry you went through that." "So am I said. "But I need you to know, Cole Properties is solid. Whatever Ethan's been saying, whatever rumors are circulating, none of it is true." "I believe you," Marcus said. "And Richard, for what it's worth, you did the right thing. Family or not, you can't let someone destroy what you built." That conversation repeated itself over the next few months. Other business associates reached out, some curious, some concerned, some just wanting gossip. Each time, I gave them the same basic story. Ethan had attempted to take control of the company through fraudulent means, and we protected our assets. Most people understood. Some people judged us for going after our own son. But slowly, gradually, our reputation recovered. Ethan's didn't. In July, about 2 months after the confrontation, Harold called with news. "Richard, I thought you should know. Ethan and Vanessa are getting divorced." I sat down heavily in my office chair. What happened? Apparently, Vanessa filed for divorce 2 weeks ago. According to the court records, she's citing irreconcilable differences and seeking a significant portion of their assets. My guess? Now that Ethan's not the heir to a real estate empire, she's cutting her losses. "She was using him," I said quietly. "Looks that way," Harold confirmed. "There's more. Ethan had to sell the house you'd helped him buy. He's moved into a rental apartment in Brentwood. He's working for a property management company now. Entry-level position, from what I hear. Basically, starting over." Part of me felt vindicated. This was justice, wasn't it? He tried to destroy me, and instead he destroyed himself. But another part of me, the part that remembered holding him as a baby, teaching him to throw a football, watching him graduate college, that part just felt sad. "How's he doing?" I asked, not sure why I cared. "I don't know," Harold admitted. "But Richard, this is what consequences look like. You did what you had to do. Don't let guilt make you second-guess yourself now." In August, David and Clara came home for a weekend visit. We had dinner at our favorite Italian restaurant in Clayton, and for the first time in months, Mariana laughed. Really laughed the way she used to. Clara told a funny story about a kid at the hospital. David shared photos of his latest bridge project, and for a few hours, we felt like a normal family again. But over dessert, the conversation turned to Ethan. "Have either of you heard from him?" Mariana asked softly. David and Clara exchanged glances. Finally, Clara spoke. "He texted me," she admitted. "About 2 weeks ago. He said he was sorry. He said he knew what he did was wrong, and he wanted to apologize to all of us." "What did you say?" I asked. "I didn't respond," Clara said. "I wanted to, Dad. Part of me wanted to yell at him, to tell him everything he destroyed, but I couldn't." He texted me too, David added. Same thing, an apology. He said he'd been manipulated by Vanessa, that he wasn't thinking clearly, that he wished he could take it all back. Do you believe him? Mariana asked. David shrugged. I don't know, Mom. Maybe he means it. Maybe he's just scared and alone and desperate. Either way, I'm not ready to forgive him. Not yet. Maybe not ever. That night, lying in bed next to Mariana, I felt her hand find mine in the dark. Do you think we were too hard on him? She whispered. No, I said firmly. He made his choice, baby. He threatened us. He tried to steal our life's work. We protected ourselves. That's not being too hard. That's being smart. But he's our son, Mariana said, and I could hear the tears in her voice. Our baby boy. And now he's lost everything. His job, his wife, his family. What if we pushed him too far? I pulled her close. We didn't push him anywhere. He jumped off that cliff all by himself. And if he's truly sorry, if he's truly changed, then maybe someday we can rebuild. But Mariana, we can't let guilt make us vulnerable again. We can't give him another chance to hurt us. I know, she whispered. I just miss who he used to be. So do I admitted. So do I. September came, and with it a surprise. I was at the office, the actual Cole Properties office in downtown Clayton that Ethan had never stepped foot in again, when my secretary buzzed me. Mr. Cole, there are 2 men here to see you. They say they're with the Financial Crimes Unit. My stomach dropped. Send them in. 2 detectives in suits entered my office, introduced themselves, and showed me their badges. Detective Ramirez was mid-40s, professional, serious. Detective Chen was younger, sharp-eyed, observant. Mr. Cole, Detective Ramirez began, we're investigating a case of financial fraud involving falsified business documents. Your name came up in connection with a complaint filed by Ethan Cole. Is that your son? Yes, I said carefully. What kind of complaint? He's claiming that you and your attorney falsified evidence against him to steal his rightful inheritance and force him out of a family business he partially owned. I stared at them for a long moment. Then I started laughing. Not because it was funny, but because the sheer audacity of Ethan's lie was so outrageous it was almost impressive. Detectives, I said, pulling open my desk drawer, let me show you some documents. Over the next hour, I walked them through everything. The falsified documents Ethan had created, the audit Sebastian had performed, the system logs showing Ethan's illegal access, the legal restructuring we'd done to protect the company. I gave them copies of everything, all properly notarized and authenticated. When I finished, Detective Ramirez was shaking his head. So your son attempted to defraud you, and when that failed, he filed a false police report claiming you defrauded him? That's about the size of it, I confirmed. Detective Chen made notes on her tablet. Mr. Cole, would you be willing to press charges? I thought about it, really thought about it. I could destroy Ethan completely. Criminal charges would mean prison time, a permanent record, the end of any hope he had of rebuilding his life. No, I finally said. I won't press charges, but I want this complaint dismissed, and I want it on record that Ethan's allegations were false. We can do that, Detective Ramirez said. And Mr. Cole, I'm sorry your family is going through this. For what it's worth, you handled it better than most people would have. After they left, I sat in my office for a long time, staring out the window at downtown Clayton. The trees were starting to turn colors, red and gold and orange. Fall was coming, my favorite season. And I realized something. Ethan could file all the complaints he wanted. He could lie, scheme, and plot. But it wouldn't change the truth. Cole Properties was safe. My real family was intact, and I'd stood up for what was right, even when it cost me everything. That had to be enough, because some lessons you learn too late, and some bridges, once burned, can never be rebuilt. Winter came early that year. By November, Clayton was buried under snow, and the city had that muffled, quiet quality that only comes with deep cold. Cole Properties was doing better than ever. The restructuring had actually improved our operations, and I'd taken on 2 new investment properties with loans from banks who respected what we'd built. Thanksgiving arrived, and for the first time in 39 years of marriage, Mariana and I didn't host. David and Clara came to us, and we had a quiet dinner, just the 4 of us. Nobody mentioned Ethan's name, but his absence sat at the table like a 5th guest nobody wanted to acknowledge. Clara brought sweet potato pie, David brought wine, and Mariana cooked a small turkey that was somehow more perfect than any of the massive spreads she used to make. After dinner, we sat in the living room watching football, and for a while it felt almost normal. Then my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. "Hello? Dad," Ethan's voice. Quiet, broken, nothing like the confident young man who'd ambushed me at Fairview. I stood up immediately, walked out of the living room into the hallway. David and Clara noticed but didn't follow. "Ethan," I said carefully, "you're violating the restraining order." "I know," he said. "I'm sorry. I needed to hear your voice. It's Thanksgiving and I'm alone, and He broke down crying. Not the manipulative tears I'd seen from him before, but real raw sobbing that sounded like it was tearing him apart. "Where are you?" I asked. "My apartment. In Brentwood. Dad, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry for everything. I destroyed my life. I destroyed our family. Vanessa's gone. My job is nothing. I lost the house. I lost you and Mom and David and Clara. I have nobody. I am nobody." Part of me wanted to hang up. Part of me remembered the threats, the lies, the ambush. But another part, the father part that never fully goes away no matter how much your child hurts you, that part just ached. "What do you want from me, Ethan?" I asked quietly. "Nothing," he said. "I don't want anything. I just wanted you to know that you were right about everything. I was greedy. I was stupid. I let Vanessa convince me that I deserved more than I'd earned, and I destroyed the best thing I ever had, my family." I leaned against the wall, closing my eyes. "Ethan, I can't do this right now. It's Thanksgiving. David and Clara are here. We're trying to have a normal day." "I know," he said quickly. "I'm sorry. I shouldn't have called. I'm sorry, Dad, for everything. I hope someday you can forgive me. Even if I never see you again, I need you to know that I'm sorry." He hung up before I could respond. I stood in the hallway for a long time, holding my phone, feeling the weight of his words. When I walked back into the living room, Mariana looked at me with knowing eyes. "That was him, wasn't it?" she asked. "Yeah," I admitted. "He says he's sorry. Do you believe him?" David asked, his voice hard. "I don't know," I said honestly. "I really don't know. Christmas came and went. We didn't hear from Ethan again. But in January, something changed. Harold called me on a Tuesday morning. 'Richard, I need to tell you something. Ethan's been attending therapy, court-mandated therapy as part of his divorce proceedings, and his therapist contacted me, with Ethan's permission, to say that Ethan's been working on taking accountability for his actions.' 'Why are you telling me this?' I asked. 'Because the restraining order expires next month,' Harold said carefully. 'And I wanted you to know that if Ethan tries to contact you after that, he might actually be sincere this time, or he might not be. I don't know the man anymore, but I thought you should be prepared.' February came. The restraining order expired. I braced myself for another call, another apology, another manipulation. Nothing came. March arrived. Then April. Still nothing. I started to relax, to think maybe Ethan had moved on, found his own path, left us alone. Then, on a warm Saturday in late April, I was working in my garden when I heard a car pull into the driveway. I looked up and there he was, Ethan. He looked different, thinner, older. He was wearing jeans and a plain t-shirt instead of designer clothes. He'd grown a beard. But most striking was his eyes. They looked tired, humbled, genuinely broken. "Dad," he said, staying by his car, not approaching. "I know I shouldn't just show up, but I've been trying to find the courage to see you for months. I need to talk to you. Just 5 minutes. If you want me to leave after that, I'll leave and never come back." I set down my gardening tools and stood up, my back aching. I was 63 now, feeling every year of it. 5 minutes, I said. Ethan nodded, swallowed hard. "I've been in therapy, real therapy, the kind where you can't lie or make excuses, and I've been learning things about myself. Hard things." "Like what?" I asked, my voice neutral. "Like the fact that I was never satisfied because I thought I was entitled to more than I earned," Ethan said, his voice shaking. "Like the fact that I let my wife poison me against my own parents because it was easier than admitting I was jealous of David and Clara. Like the fact that I tried to destroy you because I couldn't stand the idea that you'd built something I never could." "Okay," I said. "You've realized all that. What do you want from me now?" "Nothing," Ethan said quickly. "I don't want anything, Dad. I'm not asking for my job back. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I'm not even asking for a relationship. I just needed to look you in the eye and tell you that what I did was unforgivable, that you were right to protect yourself, that I'm sorry. We stood there in my driveway, father and son, separated by 8 months and 1,000 betrayals. I lost everything, Ethan continued, tears running down his face now. Vanessa left me the second I lost access to your money. My friends disappeared. My reputation is trash. I'm working a job making $40,000 a year, living in a studio apartment, driving a 15-year-old Honda. And you know what? I deserve all of it. I earned every bit of my fall. Then why are you here? I asked. Because I wanted you to know that I finally understand, Ethan said. I understand what you built. I understand the sacrifices you and Mom made. I understand that David and Clara respected you because they saw your struggle and I never did. I took everything for granted and I paid the price. Yes, I said simply, you did. Ethan nodded, wiped his eyes. That's all I wanted to say. I'm sorry, Dad, for everything. And I hope someday, even if it's not in this lifetime, you can forgive me. He turned to leave. I watched him walk back to his car, watched him open the door, watched him start to get in. Ethan, I called out. He froze, turned back. Your mother's birthday is next month, I said carefully. May 19th. She's turning 59. We're having a small party here at the house. David and Clara will be here. Ethan stared at me, hope and disbelief warring in his expression. If you want to come, I continued, you can come. But Ethan, if you ever lie to me again, if you ever threaten me or your mother again, if you ever try to manipulate this family again, that's it. You'll be dead to me. Do you understand? Yes, Ethan said, his voice breaking. Yes, I understand. Then you're invited, I said. Don't bring gifts, just bring yourself, and we'll see if there's anything left to rebuild. Ethan broke down completely then, sobbing in my driveway. I didn't go to him. I couldn't, not yet. But I stood there and watched him cry, watched him release all the pain and guilt and shame he'd been carrying. Finally, he composed himself enough to nod, to whisper, thank you, and to drive away. I went back to my garden, but I couldn't focus on the plants anymore. Mariana came outside, having watched from the window. Was that really him? She asked. It was, I confirmed. What did he want? To apologize, I said. Really apologize. Mariana sat down on the porch steps. Like, do you believe him this time? I think I do, I admitted. But I also told him that he's on thin ice. One more betrayal, and he's out forever. Did you invite him to my birthday? Mariana asked softly. I did, I said. Is that okay? She thought about it for a long time, staring at the flowers I just planted. Finally, she nodded. He's our son, she said. And if there's even a chance he's really changed, we owe it to ourselves to find out. But Richard? Yeah? If he hurts us again, that's it. I won't survive a second betrayal. Neither will I said. Neither will I. May 19th arrived with perfect spring weather. Warm sun, gentle breeze, the kind of day that makes you grateful to be alive. Mariana spent the morning cleaning the house, even though it was already spotless, nervous energy radiating off her in waves. He might not come, she said for the 10th time. He might change his mind. Then he doesn't come, I said gently. But if he does, we handle it together. David and Clara arrived around noon, both of them aware that Ethan had been invited, both of them skeptical. If he starts anything, David said privately to me in the kitchen, I'm throwing him out myself. I don't care if it's Mom's birthday. He won't start anything, I said, though I wasn't entirely sure. And if he does, we'll handle it. Clara was quieter, more conflicted. She hugged her mother and handed her a beautifully wrapped present, but I could see the tension in her shoulders. I don't know if I can forgive him, Daddy, she whispered to me while Mariana was opening gifts in the living room. What he did to you and Mom, I don't know if I can just pretend that didn't happen. Nobody's asking you to pretend, I said. We're just giving him a chance to show us who he is now. If he's really changed, we'll see it. If he hasn't, we'll see that too. At 2 p.m., a car pulled into the driveway. My heart started pounding. Mariana stood up from the couch, smoothing her dress. David and Clara moved to stand near their mother, a united front. Ethan got out of his old Honda wearing khakis and a simple button-down shirt. He carried a single bouquet of flowers, carnations, the kind you get at a grocery store for $12. Nothing fancy, nothing pretentious. I opened the door before he could knock. Ethan, I said. Dad, he replied, his voice nervous. I brought these for Mom. I know you said no gifts, but I couldn't come empty-handed. Come in, I said, stepping aside. Ethan entered slowly, like he was walking into a courtroom. He saw Mariana standing in the living room with David and Clara flanking her, and his face crumpled briefly before he controlled himself. Mom, he said softly, happy birthday. Mariana didn't move for a long moment. Then, slowly, she walked toward him. Ethan held out the flowers with shaking hands. These are beautiful, Mariana said quietly, taking them. Thank you. I'm sorry, Ethan said, and his voice broke. Mom, I'm so sorry for everything, for threatening you, for trying to hurt Dad, for what Vanessa and I did at Fairview. I was a monster, and I understand if you can never forgive me. Mariana's eyes filled with tears. She reached out and touched his face, the way she used to when he was a little boy. You're my son, she whispered. I can't stop loving you, even when you hurt me. But Ethan, you broke my heart. You broke it into pieces. I know, Ethan said, tears streaming down his face, and I'm going to spend the rest of my life trying to earn back even a fraction of your trust, if you'll let me. They stood there for a moment, mother and son, separated by so much pain but connected by something deeper. Finally, Mariana pulled him into a hug, and Ethan sobbed into her shoulder like a child. David and Clara watched, still guarded, still wary. I walked over to them. This doesn't fix everything, I said quietly, but it's a start. Dinner was awkward at first. We all sat around the dining room table, the same table where the first fight had happened at Thanksgiving 2018, and tried to find normal conversation. Ethan was quiet, answering questions when asked, but not volunteering much. Clara asked him about his job. He worked for a property management company, handling maintenance requests and tenant issues. Nothing glamorous, but honest work. Do you like it? Clara asked. I don't hate it, Ethan said. It's teaching me things I never learned when I had everything handed to me, like humility and patience, and how to actually earn respect instead of demanding it. David asked about Vanessa. Ethan's face darkened. She's engaged to some investment banker now, he said. Lives in St. Charles in a house 3 times the size of anything I could ever afford. I see her Instagram sometimes. She's living the life she always wanted, just not with me. I'm sorry, Mariana said instinctively. Don't be, Ethan said. She used me, and I let her because I was using Dad's success to impress her. We were both terrible people. She's just better at hiding it. After dinner, Mariana opened presents. David had gotten her a beautiful necklace. Clara had gotten her a spa day package. I'd gotten her a weekend trip to Branson, something we've been talking about for years. This is perfect, Mariana said, looking at me with love in her eyes. All of it is perfect. There's one more thing, Ethan said quietly. I know you said no gifts, Dad, but this isn't really a gift. It's just something I needed to do. He pulled an envelope from his pocket. I know you said no gifts, but this isn't really a gift. It's just something I needed to do. He handed the envelope to Mariana. She opened it carefully and pulled out a single piece of paper. As she read it, her hands started shaking. Ethan, she whispered. It's a letter, Ethan said. To every business contact, every associate, every person in the real estate community that I might have damaged your reputation with. I'm sending it to everyone, telling them the truth about what I did, admitting that I falsified documents, that I tried to steal the company, that every negative thing they heard about Cole Properties came from me. I'm clearing your names, even if it destroys what's left of mine. I took the letter from Mariana and read it. It was comprehensive, honest, and utterly damning to Ethan himself. He was confessing to fraud, to lies, to attempted theft. He was making sure that everyone knew Richard and Mariana Cole had done nothing wrong. Why would you do this? I asked, genuinely shocked. Because you deserve to have your reputation restored, Ethan said simply. Because Cole Properties shouldn't suffer because of my mistakes, and because it's the right thing to do, even if it costs me everything. David studied his younger brother for a long moment. Then he spoke, his voice still hard but slightly softer than before. This doesn't make us okay, David said. You understand that, right? One letter doesn't erase what you did. I know, Ethan said. I'm not asking for forgiveness, David. I'm just trying to do better. Then keep doing better, Clara added. For years. Prove that this isn't just an act. I will, Ethan promised. I will. We moved to the living room for coffee and cake. The conversation slowly became more natural, though the underlying tension never fully disappeared. Ethan told us about his therapist, about the exercises she made him do, about the painful realizations he was having about his behavior and his choices. She made me write letters, Ethan said, to each of you, apologizing for specific things I did. I have them with me if you ever want to read them. Maybe someday, I said, but not today. As the sun started to set, Ethan stood to leave. Thank you, he said to all of us, for letting me be here, for giving me a chance. I know I don't deserve it. You don't, David said bluntly. But maybe you can earn it eventually. Ethan nodded and headed for the door. I walked him out to his car, the two of us alone for the first time since his apology in my driveway. Dad, Ethan said, his hand on his car door. Can I ask you something? What? Do you think you'll ever be able to forgive me? Really forgive me? I thought about it, staring at my youngest son in the fading light. He looked so different from the confident young man who'd ambushed me at Fairview. This Ethan was broken, humbled, genuinely trying to be better. I don't know, I said honestly. Ask me again in a year. If you've kept working on yourself, if you've stayed honest, if you've proven that this change is real, then maybe. But Ethan, you have to understand something. Even if I forgive you, our relationship will never be what it was. Trust, once broken, is almost impossible to fully rebuild. I know, Ethan said, but almost impossible isn't completely impossible, so I'll take it, and I'll keep trying. He drove away into the spring evening, and I stood in my driveway watching his taillights disappear. Inside, Mariana was crying on the couch, but they were different tears now. Not tears of betrayal or pain, but tears of hope mixed with fear. Do you think he's really changed? She asked me for the 100th time. I think he's trying to change, I said, and that's something. David and Clara stayed for another hour, and the four of us talked about what came next. About boundaries we'd need to set, about trust that would have to be earned, about whether it was possible for a family to heal from this kind of betrayal. We didn't have all the answers, but for the first time in almost a year, we had hope. And sometimes that's the best place to start. Summer arrived, and with it, a new rhythm. Ethan didn't bombard us with calls or texts. He didn't show up unannounced or try to force reconciliation. Instead, he was patient, measured, present, but not pushy. He sent Mariana a card on Mother's Day. Not a fancy one, just a simple card with a handwritten note. Thank you for never giving up on me, even when I gave you every reason to. Love, Ethan. He texted me once every 2 weeks, always on Sunday evenings. The messages were short. Hope you had a good week, Dad. Thinking about you and Mom. Grateful for the second chance you're giving me. I didn't always respond, but I read every message. In July, Mariana had a health scare. Nothing major, but scary enough that we spent 6 hours in the ER getting tests done. I called David and Clara to let them know. I didn't call Ethan. But somehow, he found out. Maybe Clara told him. Maybe David did. The next morning, flowers arrived at our house with a note. I'm praying for you, Mom. Please let Dad know I'm here if you need anything. Mariana cried when she read it. He remembered, she said softly. That's something, isn't it? In August, Cole Properties closed on a major deal, a small apartment complex that I'd been negotiating for months. It was the biggest acquisition I'd made since the restructuring, and it felt like vindication, like proof that we'd not only survived Ethan's betrayal, but thrived despite it. Harold called to congratulate me. You've built something truly impressive, Richard. You should be proud. I am, I said. For the first time in a long time, I actually am. That weekend, I took Mariana to dinner at her favorite restaurant in Clayton. We celebrated over wine and pasta, talking about our plans for the new property, about David's upcoming promotion, about Clara's new relationship with a doctor at her hospital. We're going to be okay, Mariana said, reaching across the table to hold my hand. We survived it. We came through the other side. We did, I agreed. But Mariana, are we really okay? With Ethan, I mean? She was quiet for a long time, swirling her wine glass. I don't know, she finally admitted. Some days I think we can rebuild. Other days I remember how scared I felt that day at Fairview, and I don't know if I can ever fully trust him again. Me too, I said. Me too. In September, Ethan sent an email. It was long, detailed, and clearly something he'd worked on for weeks. In it, he outlined all the therapy work he'd been doing, all the behavioral patterns he'd identified in himself, all the ways he was trying to change. The email ended with a request. I'd like to start attending family dinners again. Not every week, maybe once a month. I understand if the answer is no, but I'm asking anyway. I miss being part of this family, even if I don't deserve to be. I showed the email to David and Clara over a video call. David was immediately skeptical. It's been 6 months, David said. That's not enough time to prove real change. But Clara surprised me. Maybe not, she said softly. But we have to give him a chance at some point, don't we? Otherwise, what was the point of inviting him to Mom's birthday? We talked for over an hour, the four of us, debating whether Ethan had earned more access to the family. Finally, we came to a compromise. Once-a-month dinners, always at our house, always with David and or Clara present. No private meetings, no business discussions, just family dinners where we'd see if Ethan could maintain this new version of himself. The first dinner was in October, and it was probably the most uncomfortable meal I'd ever had. Ethan showed up with grocery store flowers again, thanked us profusely for the invitation, and then sat quietly through most of dinner like he was afraid to say the wrong thing. Clara tried to make conversation, asking about his job, his apartment, his therapy. Ethan answered everything honestly, even the hard questions, even when his answers made him look bad. My therapist says I have deep-seated issues with self-worth, he said at one point. That's why I was always trying to prove I was as good as David, why I needed to be successful immediately instead of earning it slowly. She says I tied my value to my accomplishments instead of finding worth in who I am as a person. And have you, David asked bluntly, found worth in who you are? Ethan thought about it. I'm trying, he said. It's harder than you'd think. When you spend 30 years defining yourself by what you have and what you've achieved, learning to just be okay with being a regular person, it's like learning to walk again. Despite myself, I understood what he meant. I'd spent my whole life building, achieving, proving my worth through success. Could I have been content with less? Would I have been okay being ordinary? Maybe that's where Ethan and I were more alike than I wanted to admit. The second dinner in November went better. Ethan was more relaxed, more himself. He told funny stories about tenant complaints at work, made Mariana laugh with an impression of his demanding supervisor, even joked around with David about football. For brief moments, it felt like old times, like we were a real family again. But then I'd remember Fairview, remember the threats and the lies, and the wall would go back up. By December, we'd settled into a routine. Ethan came for dinner the first Sunday of every month. He helped with dishes. He asked about everyone's lives. He never asked for money, never asked for favors, never mentioned coal properties unless we brought it up first. One evening after he'd left, Mariana and I sat on the couch, exhausted but cautiously hopeful. He's really trying, Mariana said. Isn't he? He is, I agreed. I just don't know if trying is enough. What would be enough? Mariana asked. What does he have to do to earn your forgiveness? I don't know, I admitted. Maybe nothing can ever be enough. Maybe some betrayals are just too deep. But if that's true, Mariana said sadly, then what are we doing? Why are we having these dinners, taking these small steps, if you've already decided you'll never forgive him? I didn't have an answer for that. Christmas came, and we had our first real family gathering since everything fell apart. David and Clara came home, and yes, we invited Ethan. We didn't buy him expensive gifts. Nobody wanted to make it about money, but we each got him something small. A book, a warm sweater, a gift card to his favorite restaurant. When Ethan opened the gifts, he broke down crying. I didn't think I'd ever celebrate Christmas with you again, he said through tears. I thought I destroyed this forever. You almost did, David said quietly. Don't forget that. I won't, Ethan promised. I'll never forget what I almost lost. That night, after everyone had gone to bed, I stood in my backyard looking up at the stars. The December air was cold, biting, but clear. I could see constellations I hadn't noticed in years. Mariana came out in her robe, stood beside me. What are you thinking about? She asked. About forgiveness, I said. About whether I'm capable of it. You've already forgiven him a little, Mariana said. You let him come back. You let him be part of the family again. But I haven't forgotten, I said. I don't know if I ever will. Maybe that's okay, Mariana said softly. Maybe forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. Maybe it just means choosing not to let the past define the present anymore. I thought about the difference between forgiveness and forgetting, about whether you could truly heal without erasing the scars. I don't know if I'm ready to choose that, I admitted. Then don't, Mariana said, taking my hand. Not yet. But Richard, at some point, you're going to have to decide if holding on to this anger is worth more than having your son back. We stood there in the cold for a long time, holding hands, looking at stars, trying to find peace with an impossible situation. And somewhere inside the house, our family slept. David and Clara in their childhood rooms. Ethan was miles away in his small apartment, probably lying awake wondering if he'd ever truly be forgiven. The answer was still unclear. But at least now, there was a possibility. And sometimes, possibility is the best gift you can give someone who's lost everything. 1 year later, May 2021, everything was different and nothing had changed. Cole Properties had expanded to 32 units. David had been promoted to senior engineer. Clara had gotten engaged to her doctor. Mariana had turned 60 with a party that included all 3 of our children, the first time that had happened in 2 years. And Ethan? Ethan was still working his modest job, still living in his small apartment, still showing up for monthly family dinners, still trying. On a warm Saturday in late May, I asked Ethan to meet me at a coffee shop in Clayton. Just the 2 of us. No Mariana, no David, no Clara. I needed to talk to him alone, and I needed to finally settle the question that had been eating at me for 18 months. Could I forgive him? Ethan arrived right on time, looking nervous. He'd gained a little weight back, looked healthier than he had a year ago. He'd kept the beard, but trimmed it neatly. He wore jeans and a polo shirt, nothing fancy. "Dad," he said, sitting down across from me, "is everything okay?" "Everything's fine," I said. "I just wanted to talk." We ordered coffee, made small talk about the weather, about his job, about Clara's engagement. Then, when we couldn't avoid it anymore, I got to the point. "Ethan," I said, "I need to ask you something, and I need you to be completely honest." "Okay," he said carefully. "If you could go back to that day at Fairview, knowing what you know now, would you still have done it?" Ethan didn't hesitate. "No," he said firmly. "Not in a million years. I'd have walked away from Vanessa, kept my job at Cole Properties, respected your leadership, and maybe someday earned the right to take over. But I wouldn't have ambushed you. I wouldn't have threatened Mom. I wouldn't have risked everything for a shortcut that led straight off a cliff." "Why not?" I pressed. "What's different now?" "I understand the value of what I had," Ethan said quietly. "Back then, I took it all for granted. The job, the salary, the family, the respect. I thought I was entitled to more because I had a business degree and some big ideas. But I didn't understand that none of it meant anything without trust and integrity. And you understand that now?" I asked. "I'm learning it," Ethan said. "Every day. My therapist, my job, my life, they're all teaching me that real success isn't about what you have. It's about who you are and how you treat people." I sipped my coffee, studying my youngest son. He was 32 now, but he looked older. Life had aged him, humbled him, changed him in ways that might be permanent. "I've been trying to decide," I said slowly, "whether I can forgive you. Really, truly forgive you. And I think I finally have an answer." Ethan went very still. "Okay," he said, bracing himself. "I can forgive you," I said, "but I can never forget. What you did, the ambush, the threats, the lies, that's always going to be there. It changed how I see you. It changed our relationship fundamentally. Even if we rebuild something, it will never be what it was." Ethan nodded slowly, tears forming in his eyes. "I understand," he whispered. But I continued, "Forgiveness doesn't require forgetting. It just requires a choice. And I'm choosing to let go of the anger. I'm choosing to believe that you're genuinely trying to be better. I'm choosing to give you a place in this family again, even if it's a different place than you had before." "Thank you," Ethan said, and his voice broke. "Dad, thank you. I know I don't deserve it." "You don't," I agreed. "But none of us deserve all the grace we're given in life. We just have to be grateful for it and try to be worthy of it." We sat in silence for a moment. Then Ethan spoke again, his voice stronger. "I've been saving money," he said. "Not much, but some. And I was thinking, maybe someday when I've proven myself more, I could invest in Cole Properties, not as an employee or an executive, just as a minority investor, to show you that I believe in what you've built and that I want to support it without controlling it. I was surprised. You'd do that? If you'd let me, Ethan said. I don't need power, Dad. I don't need control. Why? I just want to be part of something meaningful again. And Cole Properties is meaningful because you built it with your hands and your heart. I see that now. I thought about his offer, about what it would mean to let Ethan back into the business, even in a small way, about whether I could trust him with that. Ask me again in a year, I said finally. If you're still doing the work, still being honest, still showing up, then maybe. But you have to understand, Ethan, if you ever betray me again, there's no third chance. That's it, forever. I understand, Ethan said solemnly, and I promise you, Dad, I will never hurt you or Mom again. Not for money, not for power, not for anything. You have my word. Your word didn't mean much before, I said bluntly. I know, Ethan said, but it does now, and I'll spend the rest of my life proving it. We finished our coffee and walked out into the May sunshine. As we stood by our cars, Ethan looked at me with an expression I hadn't seen in years, genuine love and respect, without the underlying resentment and ambition that used to poison everything. Dad, he said, can I hug you? I hesitated for only a moment. Then I opened my arms and Ethan embraced me, holding on tight like a drowning man finding solid ground. I love you, he whispered. I'm sorry it took me losing everything to remember that. I love you too, son, I said, and I meant it. Now go prove to the world who you really are. That night, I sat with Mariana on our back porch, watching the sunset over Clayton. David and Clara were both away, living their lives, but they'd called earlier to check in. Our family was scattered but intact, broken but healing. How do you feel? Mariana asked, sensing that something had shifted. Lighter, I admitted. Like I've been carrying a weight I didn't realize was there. Is he forgiven then? Mariana asked softly. He's forgiven, I confirmed. But he's not trusted. Not completely. He'll have to earn that back over years, maybe decades. But the anger is gone. The hatred is gone. Now there's just hope. Hope for what? Mariana asked. That people can change, I said. That families can heal. That the legacy we leave behind isn't measured in properties or money or success, but in the relationships we fought to preserve. Mariana leaned against me, and we watched the sky turn from orange to pink to purple. Somewhere out there, Ethan was probably in his apartment, maybe crying, maybe praying, maybe just feeling grateful that he hadn't completely destroyed his family. And me, I felt at peace for the first time in 2 years, because I'd learned something important through all of this. Defending what you've built isn't just about protecting property or money or success. It's about protecting dignity, respect, and boundaries. It's about knowing when to fight and when to forgive. It's about understanding that love doesn't mean accepting betrayal. It means setting standards for how you deserve to be treated. I defended my family. I'd protected what mattered. And in doing so, I taught my children, all of them, what real strength looks like. Not the strength to take what you want, but the strength to earn what you're given. Not the strength to demand respect, but the strength to command it through integrity. Not the strength to win at any cost, but the strength to choose what's right, even when it costs you everything. That was the legacy I was building now. Not Cole Properties or real estate or money. Just this, a family that survived betrayal, chose forgiveness, and understood that the most valuable things in life can't be stolen. They can only be earned. And as the last light faded from the sky, as Mariana held my hand, as I thought about my children and the future they'd build, I realized something profound. We'd won. Not by destroying Ethan, not by holding on to anger, but by choosing to be better than the pain that tried to destroy us. And that, more than any property or any money, was worth defending. That was real legacy. That was real peace. That was everything. If this story moved you, hit that like button and drop a comment telling me where you're watching from. These stories of family, forgiveness, and finding your way back matter. And remember, it's never too late to do the right thing. It's never too late to earn back what you've lost. It's just hard. Really, really hard. But the things worth having always are.